All right, Jet fans, with the draft just days away, let's take a look at the offensive linemen, how they rank amongst each other, and who the Jets should potentially take with their number 11 pick.
Jets, Jets!
Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot today. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Guys, I'm going to be going live for the NFL draft. We'll have our own virtual NFL draft party since there's going to be no large gatherings. So if you want to tune in, I'm going to have Green Bean, O'Leary, and Gangrene David from the panel all there going live at the same time for the entire draft. We'll take your phone call questions. I do have a call in to Jet Central to see if he wants to join us, but as of recording this video, I do not know if he's going to be on it or not. So if you'd like to tune in and hang out with us and kind of see our reactions to all these draft picks, link to that in the description down below. All right, Jet fans, let's talk offensive linemen. I think if most of us wanted to give an honest opinion, we believe that left tackle is the biggest position of need on our team. Yes, we do need a wide receiver, and I'm not trying to discount that, but I think given the option between the best offensive lineman and the best wide receiver, you're probably going to take the left tackle. Now, that's not the situation with the Jets. We own the 11th pick, and the rough idea is that I think at least 3 of these guys could be gone by the time the Jets pick at 11, and it may wind up forcing us to go with wide receiver. So let's take a look at my top 5 offensive tackles, and then we'll eventually do another video with the wide receivers to just kind of break down who we think might be there, who's the best of the bunch, and who sort of makes the most sense for our New York Jets. All right, guys, the 5 players that we're going to look at are Makai Becton, Josh Jones, Andrew Thomas, Jedrick Wills, and Tristan Wirfs. These guys are the top 5 tackles in this draft class and are going to be, one of these guys should be available for the New York Jets, possibly 2, maybe even 3 if things break the right way. So let's take a look. Their age, they're all 21 at the start of this football season with the exception of Jones, who's going to be 23. And I wanted to highlight this because it's something that I noticed with Sam Darnold, and when you look at Sam Darnold compared to Joe Burrow, Sam Darnold is 6 months younger than Joe Burrow right now, so he's had 2 years in the NFL of NFL experience and is still younger than Joe Burrow. So when you take Josh Jones, just remember there could be a learning curve here, and there could be some issues with age as he gets a little bit older into his NFL career. In terms of size, Makai Becton is really the beast of an animal across these metrics. 6'7", 364 pounds. There's not many guys that are going to be able to move like him in the NFL. Everyone else kind of standard across the board, right around 6'4", 6'5", and 320 pounds. I took their Pro Football Focus grades over the last 3 years to kind of see what they've done over that stretch of years. Have they improved? What's the deal with them? The issue with Pro Football Focus is going to be that they have a play-by-play basis, which is a great scoring system in the NFL because you have comparable talent on either side of the ball. But when you're looking at college and the disparity across college football schedules, there's going to be guys that verse really hard schedules and guys that verse really weak schedules. So depending on your conference, you know, Josh Jones, look, 93.4 for Pro Football Focus this past year, but he went against the 49th ranked strength of schedule. So is he versing NFL caliber talent? Probably not, or at least not many of them, as opposed to Thomas, Wills, and Wirfs, who were playing against some really top-notch competition. Up next, I want to look at their combine scores, and I just want to preface this with I did not come up with any of these scores. It's all NFL.com, as well as the ranking system that is on the scale. This is all from NFL.com and how they rank their draft prospects. If you look at this, everyone is pretty much in the will become a starter within the first 2 seasons or quality 1-year, first-year starter. So I'm looking at these scores. Wills gets the highest score of the bunch with a 6.85. He was in the hardest strength of schedule. He was, played for the best team in the country. And then you have Becton, who has the massive metrics and could absolutely destroy a combine in terms of size and speed at that size with a 6.74. Now, Wirfs did have the best combine of the bunch. He grades out just below Andrew Thomas in this, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that fall in love with Wirfs because he has the biggest upside of the guys that are not 6'7", as far as that goes, with his speed, with his power, all that sort of stuff. Now that we've taken a look at their metrics, their size, their strength of schedule, their Pro Football Focus gradings over the last few years, and we know what the NFL Combine scores were, let's take a look at how other draft sites have kind of graded these guys on their overall big boards. When you look across all these, you'll notice that Wirfs comes out as the top on average, with Wills and Thomas right behind him, 10th overall, and then Becton at 16. Now, I don't trust Pro Football Focus's grading on Becton. That seems like it's kind of the outlier in this whole grouping. I would say I tend to agree with the rankings from Tankathon more than anything else. but it's probably splitting hairs. But I wanted to give you guys the overall analysis from all these sort of sites that I've come across over the last few months. Now that we've taken a look at how these players are graded out across the board, let's take a look at their strengths and weaknesses on an individual level. Makai Becton out of Louisville, his pros are listed as an absolute unit of a player. 6'7", 364 pounds, that is a massive human being. 7-foot wingspan, that is absolutely huge when you can get your hands on a defensive end and push him out of the play. Having shorter arms is always going to be a weakness. 7-foot wingspan, not going to be a problem here. He moves people like they're toys. He's just so much bigger than anyone else. He's athletic enough to zone block, which could really come in handy with our offense. Moves like a player, 70 pounds lighter. I've said it before, the guy has impressive metrics from the 40-yard dash to the way he has developed on tape. The guy doesn't play like he's nearly 400 pounds. His long arms allow him to recover much easier than some of his other counterparts. Having that big of a wingspan really lets you stretch out. Same way with an NFL receiver. If you have a big wingspan, you can catch a ball. You can grab hold of that defensive end or get a hand on him at least to push him out of the way of the quarterback. He swapped between right tackle and left tackle over the last few years. 2019 was actually his first year as left tackle. So the sky is absolutely the limit for this guy's potential as far as his size and his metric goes, as well as his learning curve. If this was his first full year as a left tackle, he should only get better in time. Now the cons, he's 370 pounds, or damn near close to it. That is an unprecedented size for the NFL. It begs the question, why don't we see guys that big more often? He's only been in about 73 true passing sets, so there could be a little bit of a learning curve from the style of offense that he's coming from. He gets overly anxious and may try to attack one of the defensive linemen before he's ready to. He should sit back a little bit more and kind of be patient with that size that he has. Overall, I really like Makai Becton. I think the size is incredible. I think the raw talent is there. I think the ability for upside is there more than probably any other player in this draft from a tackle perspective. But I think it's very boom or bust. I think he has a very low floor when it comes to potentially developing. I think you could whiff on this pick really hard, but I think you could also get an all-star, all-caliber type left tackle here. When we hop over to Josh Jones from Houston, his pros, he allowed 18 pressures over the course of 1,282 pass blocking snaps. He has great hand usage. He's a natural athlete, comfortable on the move or in space, so you can really get him out on the edge if you want to. He locks onto shoulder pads really well. He has the elite NFL size to play in the NFL. Now, all these guys, 6'4", 6'5", they're all going to be in that same sort of ballpark. 4 years experience in a pass-heavy offense. Now, this was a very, very pass-happy offense, but oddly enough, they didn't do a lot of pro concepts in their offense, so he is going to have a little bit of that issue going to the next level. He does need to work on his pass blocking sets, so when he has his feet and how far they're apart and the way he sort of steps back and slides across the offensive line, he does need to take a look at that, and it's probably why he's generally considered the 5th of the top 5 offensive linemen. He tends to leave his chest exposed, and that just sort of leaves you open for a big-time stiff arm from a defensive end and really push you out of the play. Not good in that respect. Like I said, not many true passing sets coming from the Houston offense. He has a tendency to play high in the running game, and if anyone knows leverage, if you play higher, you generate yourself as a longer lever, so you're easier to kind of manipulate. If you can get compact and down with good angle, you're going to be able to move guys a lot better. I like Josh Jones. He would be someone that I think I would consider in a trade down situation if the Jets were to move back to 15, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in that stretch of picks, and pick up maybe a second-round pick or some sort of package that the Jets could move down for. I would be okay with Josh Jones in that sort of situation. I don't think he's going to be a player I want to look at number 11, though. Next, we'll take a look at Andrew Thomas. This guy has been the consensus number 1 left tackle since the beginning of the college football season. He's someone that I wanted the Jets to take back when I did my first mock. I believe it was middle of November or so. So I've always been really high on Andrew Thomas. Now, since that point in time, he has dropped down draft boards, and people are seeing him go maybe to the Jets at 11, but also possibly a little bit further down. I think I saw some that had him going in the 20s, which is just kind of ridiculous for me, but who knows, maybe I'm totally wrong on this type of prospect. The pros for him, he has jaw-dropping raw strength, incredible natural flexibility, well proportioned at 320 pounds. He doesn't carry a lot of extra weight with him. NFL caliber kick slide, movement of someone 50 pounds lighter, so not quite the 70-pound difference that Makai Becton has, but 50 pounds lighter, not too shabby. Improved in grade every single year, so you could see this potentially get better and better if he's going to continue on that trajectory. The cons: feet need work in pass protection, uses hands like boxing gloves rather than clamps. You want to try and grab hold of that faceplate or that chest plate as best you can to try and manipulate the defensive end. Reckless in his run blocking, fires too low, so I guess he's more susceptible to being knocked over or pushed out of the way. He was protected with a tight end in a very run-heavy offense with Georgia. So this is going to be an area that maybe he had a little bit more help and had someone chipping the defensive end on the outside of the line. Now, overall, I think that Andrew Thomas probably has the highest floor. Like, I think he has the lowest potential to bust, but I also think he probably has the lowest ceiling in a weird sort of way. Like, he might be a finished product or close to it in terms of what you've seen from him. Now, I don't think a 20-year-old or 21-year-old is ultimately a finished product, but I think as far as an upside goes, I think you'll see more of a really high upside from a Jedrick Wills, a Tristan Wirfs, or a Makai Becton than maybe you'll get out of an Andrew Thomas. But I do think his floor is a lot lower. I think you're going to get a very safe left tackle if you take Andrew Thomas in the top of this draft. Let's switch gears and look over at Jedrick Wills from Alabama. His pros: best run blocker in the class, flies out of his stance, gets depth quickly, explosive no matter the situation, moves more like a defensive lineman than an offensive lineman, meaning he can attack the way a defensive lineman is supposed to. Offensive linemen are more of the, the hogs of the teams, is how teams generally think of them, or how people generally think of them. He's very agile for a large guy, impressive against a bull rush, can execute any block or any blocking scheme you ask. Now, from what I've sort of gone over and the tape that I've sort of watched, I looked heavily at the Brett Coleman footage of Wills and Wirfs to kind of come to my decision on this, but it looks like Wills is probably the best tackle in this draft. I would expect him to go first of these 4 or 5 tackles. In terms of his cons: punch happy in pass protection, tries to deliver a huge blow rather than a well-timed blow. So he's got to be a little bit more thought-conscious on that. Susceptible to an inside move, so he could get caught off guard, which oddly enough in the Brett Coleman video, he showed an adept knowledge of being able to pass off players. So maybe he's not easy to adjust in terms of his own direction, but I think the communication across the offensive line could help him pass off some of these defensive linemen that might be an issue for him. Tendency to get grabby, hasn't been flagged much, but he could have been flagged more than we saw. So this is kind of like the New England Patriots sort of argument. Is their offensive linemen that much better at not creating penalties, or are they just not getting caught doing it? So something to watch on Wills. Maybe he has some issues at the next level with holding, but overall, I do like Wills. I think he is definitely the best tackle of the 5 here from a safety perspective with a high upside. So maybe slightly lower floor or about the same floor as Andrew Thomas, but probably a higher ceiling. In terms of the pros and cons for Tristan Wirfs, as powerful as a junior as you'll find, has power to move defensive linemen off the screen. What they're saying about that is when you are watching TV and you see someone get wiped out of the field of view, that's how strong they're saying Tristan Wirfs is. And from his combine, tends to check out. They say his hands are like cinder blocks. When he extends his arms, the defensive linemen go back. And when you look at his combine scores again, with his weightlifting and everything like that, the guy is an absolute freak of an animal. Quiet on his feet in pass protection, always has control and balance. Now, this is one thing I'll probably argue based on the Brett Coleman footage that I watched, and that is that he winds up perpendicular to the offensive line of scrimmage and could be susceptible to a counter move if a defensive lineman gets his hand in the center of his chest. So that could be a little bit of an issue. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this particular comment. Won't succeed an inch into the pocket. Now, he is really good. They say it in the next one, too. Absorbs a bull rush. The guy is an absolute freak of an animal, and he can really prevent that player from just bull rushing right up the middle at the quarterback. So if you can wipe out that player towards the end of the screen, it's probably the best thing you could do. Cons, they say tight splits and tight end help protected him from playing in space too often, so he had some type of coverage on the outside there. Had issues with longer edges, couldn't get to their chest. Now, this is what I'm talking about with the long arms of the defensive lineman. If he can get on if they can get their hand on Tristan Wirfs' body and kind of push him backwards, that's going to be an issue that he's going to have to deal with. Plays high on the move. Power doesn't show up as much. Now, I didn't see it too much. I thought he was pretty strong in all facets of his game, but what they're saying again is if he's playing high, he's a longer lever, which makes you easier to move. So you got to be a little more compact and be able to use that power stance that you learn in like middle school or whatever. He's hasty firing off the offensive line and has whiffed on some stunts and slants. This is going to be an issue where you might wind up getting knocked back if you're the quarterback, if this guy overcommits one way, because he may not have the ability to bounce back and prevent the block from going, or prevent the defensive end from going over at your quarterback. With Tristan Wirfs, teams are absolutely going to fall in love with him because of his combine, even if his college tape isn't quite what you want it to be. I think he's probably going to be the second or third offensive tackle off the board. The one thing that may wind up hurting him is that he played right tackle. Yes, I know Jedrick Wills played played right tackle, but he was covering the blind side of Tua Tagovailoa, who is a left-handed quarterback. So playing the right-hand side in that Alabama offense is comparable to the sort of attention you would be getting on the left-hand side for a right-handed quarterback. So one potential knock when it comes to Tristan Wirfs. Now, when I look at everything overall and I'm looking at all these prospects, what do I think is going to be available for the Jets and who do I rank the best? I would say in terms of their overall ranking, I would put Wills as my number 1 left tackle. I think Wirfs is probably going to be number 2. I like the upside of Makai Becton. I'll put him at 3 just because he's not quite as safe, but could definitely be a Pro Bowl, I don't want to say Hall of Fame, but Pro Bowl caliber left tackle. Andrew Thomas, I really like. I think he's number 4 on my list, sort of how we've kind of seen these players start to slip in mock drafts. I like Andrew Thomas a lot. I would be very happy with him. And then Jones is someone that I would definitely say is the 5th of the 5 guys here. Now, when I'm looking at where I think they could go, Nate Solder for the Giants is their current left tackle. Next year, he has a $20.5 million cap hit, so this is probably the last season that the Giants are going to have him as their left tackle. If you're sitting at 4, you get your choice of the best of these 4 or 5 guys, whatever. And I think the Giants, as much as they want to help the defense, Gettleman coming from Carolina and sort of understanding the way you build an offensive line, he tends to strike me as someone who would want to go offensive line. And I originally had them taking Isaiah Simmons here. I could still see that pick. It's either going to be Isaiah Simmons or Jedrick Wills for me. I could see Wills going 4. Then you look at Wirfs and Becton. Wirfs, I think, winds up going to the Arizona Cardinals. They need a right tackle. He fits on the right-hand side right off the bat. So I think that fit sort of makes sense to me. Then you have the Browns. The Browns could be taking an offensive lineman. Sounds like they're going to be taking a left tackle. I predicted that they and the Jets are probably both going to be in on the Trent Williams lottery, but this probably will play out after these picks if they don't like the player that's available. I think Makai Becton probably goes to the Browns at 10. And now, for me, you hope that Andrew Thomas is there. If Andrew Thomas is not there because Jacksonville decided to take an offensive lineman, or maybe one of these other teams in front of the Jets decides to pull the trigger on offensive lineman, I would not take Josh Jones at 11. At that point, I think I would probably consider taking a wide receiver or trying to trade back. So guys, let me know how you rank these prospects. Who is your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Who do you want the Jets to wind up with? What do you see happening? I'm going to eventually do my wide receiver video. That should be the next one coming out. Don't forget to hit the reminder button on the live stream for the Jets draft party. It's going to be me, Green Bean, O'Leary, and David. Going to have a lot of fun. We're going to take phone calls and have all sorts of reactions, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you guys in the comments, and as always, go Jets.